It's time for Trench Talk, where Joe Rogan meets underground metal and heavy music. I'm your host, Flight of Icarus from metaltrenches.com. As always, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, give us a like or a rating if you enjoy it, and consider supporting us on Patreon. Links all down in the description. Cool. Well, maybe you could just start by introducing yourself and your band.
My name's Seb Alvarez. My band is Meth.
One of the first things I was interested in asking you about is it's just such a great band name, and I'm curious, like, where did it come from?
It was honestly I just kind of thought of it a few years ago when I was just doing the project by myself, and it was just it fit the mood of what I was kind of aiming to do, and the project itself just kind of took a life of its own, and we were just felt it represented what we were doing within the band as far as like the vibe and tone of everything, and just felt like a good match, I guess.
So there wasn't like a moment where it just like came into your head, it just fit?
I mean, it was always a name that I had kind of wanted to use for different a variety of reasons, but no, it wasn't there wasn't any like just light bulb that went on or anything. It just kind of fit what I was writing when I was trying to do some solo stuff, and then it all kind of just trickled down from there.
Any particular significance to adding the super fancy period at the end?
No, I just did it, and it seems like it's a topic of. Well, I know it's irritating to write around for people, just having to put a period after no, it was just kind of a stylistic thing, nothing significant.
Struck me as a very like MySpace era thing to do.
Yeah. I think for the earlier stuff, it definitely matched the tone we were doing at that time a lot more too. And yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what about primary influences for your sound, like from anything from other bands to other, pop culture, movies, media, whatever? Where does it all come from?
It's a big, I mean, for me personally, you can kind of see the phases of stuff I was kind of into as stuff was, as like the releases go. I just kind of gotten back into all of the like MySpacey stuff when Children Are Watching came out, or when we worked on that, and I just wanted to write an album very like in the vein of like Hayworth. Just kind of trying to do something just to, like, exercise different, like I always like trying to write in different genres and just kind of like toying around with things, and I was getting back into like the Hayworth and like the Daughters stuff during that time period, because a lot of my friends it seemed like it was recirculating a little bit, and I was like, just, oh, you know what, I've never actually like written something like that, and I feel like I listened to a lot of that music growing up especially, and did that for a lot of the earlier stuff, like the first two EPs. It was kind of like a mix of that style of music. And then for Red Light, I mean, it's a mix of a lot of stuff between, like all of us in a way, like the four of us who write a good amount of the music. Like me and our guitarist, Zach, he listens to like a lot of Gojira and Gorguts and just like really heavy stuff, and I listen to a lot of just like Swans, Coil, just like Godspeed, a lot of atmospheric stuff, and it was just kind of a mix of all that plus the stuff prior, and just kind of just trying to find this weird mix on that aspect, and then all the all the cult imagery and vibe and everything too is just comes from like I've had a very deep interest in just cults and just serial killers, like all the true crime stuff, like since I was like really young, and I'd always wanted to write a concept album since I started doing music. There's this concept album by Boys Night Out called Trainwreck that came out. I listened to it when I was in like 8th grade, and was obsessed with just doing a concept album since then. And it was kind of just like, just wanted to put everything into a box and try it for once instead of, I guess, just kind of taking little bits of it, or just, I don't know. But that's kind of where a lot of the influence came in.
Cool. And you're going exactly kind of the direction that I was really interested in going. But before we even get into the concept piece of it, which I'm very interested in, I was glad you mentioned Daughters in the list of influences, because I know when I was listening, I was trying to sort of make sense of all these colliding ideas. And I think hearing you talk about it now, it makes a lot more sense. But I remember Inbred came on, and immediately I was like, this is like a Daughters track, like straight up. Like this could have easily been on their latest album.
Yeah, it's weird too, because like we've had that song written for, I mean, we've been playing that since we started playing shows, and it just, before that, New Daughters record came out too, and it just, I always kind of, just the way it builds and stuff, I always felt the structure drew from like Swan's like stuff, because we've been trying to experiment a little bit more with repetition and layering and progression on top of like the repetition, and then all the other stuff came out too, and it just like, that's cool. Like I've heard that a lot about that track, and it's cool to like hear that. And I've seen I saw someone say something about it like being like a Jesus lizardy type thing, and it's like, that's freaking very complimentary.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really go wrong with a name drop like that. And it is a really cool song. Like, and I tend to be more into the faster, more just balls to the wall aggressive stuff, but that is one of my favorite tracks on the album, even though it's a much more kind of methodical, groovy, kind of thoughtful track, as opposed to some of the more kind of barn burner moments. But it definitely stood out to me.
Oh, thank you. No, that's awesome. That's definitely I think our collective favorite one on the record as well.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
well, you can hear the love put into it, or the hate, however you want to put it. Just a random aside too, I'm definitely into like that true crime stuff too. I remember just being in like high school and like researching serial killers. I'm sure anyone looking through my search history would have like flagged me for some sort of concern, but I was a pretty mild-mannered kid. I just found it fascinating. Are you watching that Mindhunters show on Netflix? Oh my God.
Yeah, I waited. I mean, I was
so
super
good.
Eager for it. Yeah, that show.
I haven't seen any of second season yet, but I can't wait to start it.
Just a quick thing with that, it's not going to ruin anything, but the guy that they get to play Charles Manson was like hard to discern from like the actual just like pictures and videos of like him from the past. I was kind of like, it was fucking with me really bad when I was watching. I was just like, how do they cast, like whoever cast that show does a really good job.
They really do. Well, and like David Fincher's involved, and he's always been really good at that whole kind of style.
Yeah.
They did that last season with I didn't even know that guy who played Ed Kemper prior to. He was amazing. I was just totally stunned. He just embodied that character so well.
Yeah, it was like, cause I didn't like research that much into Kemper. I knew like a little bit, and then after that, I was just kind of like going down like a little rabbit hole with it. But just like even seeing like pictures of him in comparison.
Video. They have like video of him too, and I'm like, dude, it's like almost the same guy. That's insane.
I haven't seen I need to watch those videos.
Yeah, it's so disturbing. But he nailed like the fact that, you know, these people, even though they're doing monstrous things, they can also be quite charming and interesting to talk to, and it's just such a cool show. So I'm wondering, like, is that kind of the vibe that gets you interested into this topic? And talk a little bit about sort of the concept of this album.
So a lot of just the theme of like the choir of red light and everything. It kind of sparked I was in Brooklyn last year, and we had already like done the EP and stuff, but what kind of like turned it more on its head, I guess, for me to like kind of just full on just dive in was we got like these pamphlets handed to us, and it was just this weird Christian like I just someone handing out pamphlets for like it seemed like a doomsday cult almost, and like I was going through it and it had like pictures of like people getting microchipped and like the end of the world's coming and like stuff like that, and just like the imagery of that was just very jarring in a way where it was just like people are very like people believe this style of thing, and just the God concept of the record as well has been an idea I've been toying around with for a few years, and it just all kind of came together where it was just I've always had this obsession with religion just growing up, and just my dad is very he's a deacon for like an evangelical Christian church, but he didn't he wasn't always like super religious, and when I was younger he would just take me to like these churches, and like or his church that he still goes to, but it was just one of those churches where like people go up and ask for forgiveness, and these people pray over them, and they like pass out, and they like put blankets over them, and
Oh,
like
so
people
like
speak in
old
tongues.
school. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very like why it like back then it was just weird because I initially before he became Christian he was Catholic, and I mean I just always thought church was like super boring, and then just going from like that more of like the rituals of like a Catholic church versus like this church where it was like everyone would like sing, and it always made me feel really weird. I felt very out of place, and then just watching all this happen, and everyone kind of pushing for people to partake and for it to have this like normalcy to it. I felt very abnormal just watching it, and it was fascinating just to see people, I guess, just have this devotion and feel that, I guess, just for like Jesus and stuff like that. And it's just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is
Yeah.
so weird. And I'm not judging. I mean, I sounds like I'm judging, but I mean, I don't
No, but I
care.
mean, I think that's a pretty typical reaction, especially for a kid. Like, it's
Yeah,
like, this is not something I'm used to seeing. So if it's
yeah,
novel, then yeah, you're going to have a reaction to it.
yeah. And it was just, yeah, and um, just with all of that too, and just like my dad's relationship a lot of the time was, I mean, it was always based on his faith and him trying to like kind of push me towards like Christianity in a way, and I've just never had like a desire or appeal to it, but it was always very interesting because of just how much it just like changes people's lives, and like or in a way or changes their lifestyles, I guess, and just like can like just watching him go from how he was when I was younger to his just like morals and values being completely different. It was weird, and so that's always kind of been a thing that I've like written about in previous bands and stuff. Just there's always been kind of like a religious touch to it, and just I got very into like just like cults, and just went down a thing with like Children of God, and like David Berg and like all that incestual stuff that happened, and then like Jonestown. I mean, just them moving to like the commune, and just everything always starting as just like a church, like, and essentially just kind of devolving into this just massacre of humanity in a way, just like whether it is the actual like massacre with like a Jonestown thing, or just like how like the Children of God cult is just like that's just like an abomination of people, and like It was just weird because it's just always based under like Jesus, or it's based under like a god, or based under like one person, or one person who speaks to a god. And that was always just fascinating, that someone could not only have that much of like an ego inside of them to like convince themselves in a way that they are a god, but also like have enough of like a manipulative tactic, and enough of like that charm, like that Edmund Kemper type charm, where like they can just like convince people really of just anything, and they do these terrible things, but you talk to them and like you could easily mistake these people for just being like a normal person, or like, oh, that person could be my friend if I didn't know any of like the stuff around here. And like with the Edmund Kemper stuff too, how he's like friends with cops and everything, and it's just that charm aspect is like I think you kind of hit a key on there, where it was just it is very interesting how much like all those people have just like that power of persuasion, I guess. And
Yeah. And
yeah,
it seems like that's part of it too, is that they've already sort of got that personality, and then things really start to go wrong when that person all of a sudden gets all the power,
yeah.
and it like really corrupts everything. Like, I'm even, as you're talking, I last year watched that documentary Wild Wild Country,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and I was just so fascinated by like the escalation of that, because it was mostly just like a bunch of relatively normal, quote unquote, people, like not looking to cause any trouble necessarily, but it's like once the animosity started, and then once that one lady kind of took over and got on sort of a power trip, like things devolved into
yeah,
poisoning and arming themselves. And it's just interesting to see how south things can go real quick,
yeah.
under the right circumstances, or the wrong circumstances, I guess.
And it's just people being drunk on that power, and it's so easy to, I feel like, to watch at like from afar and be like, yeah, that's crazy or whatever, but to actually like while it's happening around you and stuff, it's probably just like there's so much going on that you kind of get like just like that rush, that mob mentality of everything, where it's just like, okay. And
Diffusion of responsibility.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's just yeah, I need to rewatch that one too. I'm so bad at like remembering things,
It's
or I
a
always
long
put,
one though.
yeah,
It's a
that one
time
is very,
investment.
yeah.
Yeah, it was good though.
Yeah,
Yeah, that stuff is so crazy, and it's just, I work in mental health, and so it's like particularly interesting to me to see
yeah,
like those extremes. And I think I'm most interested from a standpoint of like, okay, how do people end up there, and how do we use that to prevent that from happening, so
yeah,
that
and
we
just
don't end up with these sociopathic people walking around.
yeah, and it's just, and that like goes back to that Mindhunter stuff too, just like,
Yeah, they're
and
like
yeah,
pioneers in that.
yeah, and it's just figuring out like the warning signs of stuff. But oh man, I'm sorry, I'm so like just looped out right now for
I
no
hear you. It's
reason.
been it's been that kind of a day,
Yeah.
anyways. I was curious if you were familiar with this as well, because in my review I sort of described this album as because it's kind of got like this atmospheric psychedelic vibe to it as well. I was like, this is kind of like if you took the movie Mandy and you turned it into like an album, like it would kind of sound like this. Like
Okay.
that was my thinking on that.
I just grinned because yeah, I that movie was it's probably my favorite movie that came out last year. Like I went and saw it with my girlfriend, and just that movie is freaking beautiful. I think when we did the video for Womb, that was one of the main things. That was, I told our director to like watch that movie, and just the whole vibe of that movie in particular definitely has an influence on a lot of Red Light and everything. Just that I felt like that came out at a perfect time for like me specifically, just like while we were writing this record and stuff, it just yeah, it really was. It just like was so horrific but beautiful, and just had all these elements to it, and definitely where
Yeah.
that would translate in your thought process and everything as well, because there's definitely some influence from that movie on the record.
Yeah. Also, it's just fun to see Nick Cage do what Nick Cage does sometimes.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, he's honestly, I think he's my favorite actor, just because he's so ridiculous. Like I just watched Vampires Kiss again for like the
Oh my
fourth.
God, dude, that movie!
Yeah.
I watched that movie for the first time last year. Like
Oh,
I kept hearing about it for the longest time, and I'd seen, of course, all those famous memes with his like crazy facial expression at that
uh,
one part. And finally, it was like it popped up in my queue, and I was like, "All right, I guess this is happening. We're gonna watch this now." And I was just like, "Oh my God, nothing,
yeah.
nothing can prepare you for how strange that movie is."
It's just he's so animated that whole movie, and it's just so like I feel very just ahead of its time in a way where it's just so there's so much like subtle things that aren't very subtle whatsoever either. Like there's that where he like runs home and it has all this dramatic
Oh my
music playing.
God,
There's
yeah.
two nuns, I mean not nuns, mimes, like in front of his house, and they're like just like doing like a routine, and they just slap each other, and it's like what, like this has nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. There's a lot of just little things like that thrown in, and I feel like the story just like what even is the story really? There's like his obsession with that file, and then him turning into the vampire, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it's I
yeah.
heard the I want to rewatch it with the commentary track cuz I heard it's like an epic commentary. I think it's just him and the director.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, I have to. He's such an interesting actor too, just because he'll do crazy stuff like that, or he'll do like Face Off or
Yeah,
Con Air, but then he'll also do like Lord of War or Adaptation, and it's
yeah,
like you want to write him off as like this dumb, like just cornball actor that just overacts all the time, but he's proven in certain roles that with the right director, he is actually a very competent and very thoughtful actor. But then he'll
yeah.
punch somebody in a bear suit in, what's that movie?
Uh,
Oh,
a
The
Wicker
Wicker
Man.
Man. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, it's just and I think that's why I like him so much. Is it's just like it's like I don't understand you as like a person or artist, like just because it's just his everything's so across the board where it's just like because then he does like the National Treasure like family movie
Yeah.
kind of things, and it's like all right, and then Adaptation too is just yeah, I love that movie as well. And
He's
he's fun.
he's one
There's
of a kind.
I forget what it was recently too. Not to go too off topic again, but my buddy was showing me it's like a video of him just he was doing karaoke. Like this was like a few months ago, and like there's like a week where he was just getting like plastered and going to like karaoke bars and just singing the same song.
What?
And I don't remember what song it was, but the video was just ridiculous.
I'd be interested to talk to him about metal too, because he probably has some knowledge of it now that his son is like in a metal band.
Yeah, I saw that too.
He'd probably have an
Like,
interesting perspective on it.
yeah.
I had also another movie of his I saw for the first time last year. I'm a huge David Lynch fan, and I had seen all of David Lynch's movies and had been watching them since I was like 16, but I had never watched Wild at Heart. And so I finally watched that, and that's another one where Nick Cage is just like completely unhinged. Like it's so bizarre. That movie.
Yeah, and I'm I haven't seen it, and I'm a big David Lynch and Nick Cage.
If you like the the Kiss of the Vampire, you're gonna love Wild at Heart. I feel like it's kind of in a similar vein. It's not quite as like I guess it's the same randomness, but in a different way. I don't know
Yeah.
how to. You just have to watch it to believe it.
Yeah, I definitely need to. I feel like that's one that's always been suggested, and I forget about it. And yeah, I need to see that.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just announced that freaking Twin Peaks box set
Oh
yesterday
yeah,
too.
I saw
And,
that.
oh, that's I really I need that in my
Yeah. Yeah.
life.
I'm like, dang it, I already bought season 3, but I do want the whole box now. And anything he puts out, I have to get it. I'm still waiting for them to put out the dang Criterion edition of Lost Highway, because you like can't even get that on Blu-ray anywhere right now. I
Oh,
think
really?
I think there are plans for it, but um, yeah, that's one that like you can't get right now, which is really annoying because I really like that one. But anyways, kind of related. So back on the concept
Mhm.
album part, I'm interested in that in another way too, because I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are overall, having done a concept album now and kind of been sort of in that realm for a little while. Like, do you find it limiting at all? Because that's often my complaint about certain concept albums, is that the risk is you can kind of like put yourself in a box, and now all of your songwriting has to kind of like fit inside that box. And I don't know if you experience that at all or if you have a completely different take on it.
No, it was definitely very exhausting because there's definitely times where like I had like a rough story outline of everything and I just kept like picking away at it and then I was like, well, I can't really do too much with like this because it just ventures too far away and it was just like I really wanted to stay straight with like the key points of the main character. It's like his split personality, god complex, like devolving and just like completely separating and having like these key points of just that kind of like trigger his like transformation from going from god to human again. And it was I really wanted to like kind of stray away and maybe go a little bit more into just the cult aspect itself and just things that go on within the cult. And just would have felt very convoluted, just jumping around too much. And yeah, I mean, it was very hard, and it definitely doesn't give you a whole lot of room for just like drastic risks either. And like I was treating it as if I was trying to like write just like a story or a movie or just something, so everything would be cohesive. And when you have something like that, it's just like if you branch too far away, which is something I really like doing with just writing, is just taking like a weird left turn and just doing something that's just very just out there. I felt there was a lot less room to do that for this record, with the concept in mind and everything. Um, yeah, I mean, it was fun to write. I really like writing stories and just doing things that way, but I don't know if I would do it again, or if I do, it would be like I've been tinkering around with ideas for like the next thing and doing like three short stories or something within the record or something, or
Hmm.
just doing something um, different like that. But I definitely want to have more room for just adventuring out. And like I don't know, everything's so loose um, right now with what we're planning forward, but I'm just very much know I don't want to do another concept album because it was just so um, it was just draining, especially
Yeah.
considering the EP with it and everything too. So I'm just like, we've been doing this thing for like basically since like our inception as the full band. So it's like it'll be nice to kind of do something a little different for whatever we end up doing next. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad you're sharing that with me, because that's always been my sort of theory as to how that goes. Like it seems like if I'm putting myself in those shoes, it does seem a lot more taxing, because it kind of cuts some of the spontaneity, like you were saying, and you like may have an idea that's like, oh, musically this would be really cool, but it doesn't fit with what I'm trying to do with like this particular moment in what's happening in the story. And
Yeah.
so like, you know, listening to bands like Coheed and stuff growing up that were following this like same storyline for years and years and years, I was always just like, man, does that get old? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how because when did they, I mean, I dropped off with Coheed a long time ago, but they only like somewhat recently stopped doing the story. Or are they still doing it? I have no idea.
they stopped for one album a couple years ago where it was their first non-conceptual album. It was just sort of like a collection of, it was a typical album from like most bands where it's just a collection of songs. They weren't interrelated in any way. And then immediately after that picked up again with various offshoots of kind of the universe that they had built. And it's been kind of, I think it's good that they took that break. I wasn't a huge fan of the album that they took a break on, but I had also kind of noticed that the quality past the first 4 albums had started to kind of dip, and it seemed like they were running out of ideas. So I think they just needed to breathe and take a break, and then they came back strong. I think it was just last year they put out their latest album, and I really love that album. I think, again, just maybe getting away from it for a while and allowing ideas to accumulate again made it fresh, and it feels much more kind of genuine instead of tired.
Yeah. Yeah, because I could sense a little bit of that. I think I stopped on like Year of the Black Rainbow and stuff, and I was just like, it just felt a little bit, it just felt a little stagnant, and just with everything going that way. And I feel like doing such an extensive concept like they're doing too. I mean, that's such a huge, that's a very ambitious project, and like they do it very well. But yeah, I mean, I could not imagine doing something like that extensive for that long, and just yeah, like yeah,
I would get sick of it.
I would imagine that. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know how you could just do that and just keep kind of writing and doing the same thing. But I mean, I guess different strokes, I guess.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I feel like my attention span's too short sometimes. I think that's why we listen to like some of that the grindier stuff that we do sometimes as well.
Yeah, and those are my favorite parts. I will say, like, I think overall the concept came together quite well on this thing. There were some moments where I'm just kind of like, all right, it's a little too much atmosphere here. I just want to get back to the grindy, weird kind of technical moments.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I was quite impressed with it. And again, I like the overall atmosphere. It definitely kind of stuck with me because, I mean, so many bands kind of, I hesitate to say like in your genre, because you do kind of straddle the line with a couple different things. But I mean, I think, you know, having played Index Fest, like you sort of fit in with sort of that mathcore, grindcore, hardcore kind of crowd, and not a lot of those bands are doing this particular twist on it, where it's a lot more kind of dark and ominous sounding. Like in a way, the atmosphere reminds me more of something like, say, Deathspell Omega than like any other like hardcore or grindcore album.
And I don't even know what that is. But that's cool.
Any what are your favorite parts on this album?
I think personally, for me, track 8, Return Me, by Body, was, I think, my favorite one that came together. Because the first half of that song it's weird because it's like me and Zach, our guitarist, there's like a direct split from where I wrote the song and then he wrote the song. Like I wrote the first half before there's like this noise break in the middle of the song, and then he finished the rest of it. And I always thought that was really cool because it was just like it was both of our it was basically just like here, I'm starting the song, and then he took it, finished it, and it was just cool to have like that split of two different like writing styles, just kind of like doing our own thing entirely with that. And I was like, it kind of like matched the concept of the album in a way, and just like that whole song itself, thematically, just being like that song in particular being where the character kind of overtakes like his body again, and gaining control, kind of pushing that god complex out and getting everything back. And that song, yeah, I'm very happy with it. It also sounded completely different like 8 months ago too. Like the ending was completely different, and it's like another part that we kind of like stashed away for something down the line. But
oh, cool.
Yeah, it was
I like when I get little peeks behind the curtain with that. I have a friend who's in Lord Mantis, and he's been sharing for months now like little snippets of like ideas as they've slowly like evolved into songs. And it's just like it's not something I think about normally because I don't write any music anymore because I spend so much time doing this. But it was cool to see like these songs take shape and completely drastically become very different things from what they were originally. And it's just interesting.
Yeah, like I think that was my favorite part of writing, or taking part in writing this whole thing, was just seeing like how everything changed, where like Zach would give ideas, and then like I would give input, or like I would show up with ideas, then he would like kind of twist things, and then we would all collectively like just jam or present the ideas to our drummer. And then as songs would like kind of develop more, our like lap steel synth player would kind of just add his like his touch on top of it as well. And it was a cool dynamic to see, just things that we started, and just seeing how different they are. Like we're doing, I think it's just tomorrow, or I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, but our record release show, we're doing a tape of just like a bunch of B-sides, like demos, and then some of like the early stuff of like How I Love You was before we changed a lot of that. Because even with I Love You and everything, the first version of those songs, like we almost recorded them that way, and it sounded just, it was not what we wanted whatsoever. And like our drummer Andrew, he was like just is not dark enough. Like there's just something about it, and we kind of just took that, then just like reworked everything, and it came together how it was. So the demos, were putting up like a very limited tape thing with those, and there's like a version of Child of God from the record that sounds absolutely nothing like the song does now. Like I think the only similarity is the opening, and then everything else just takes this turn, and it's like almost embarrassing in a way. But but we're just like, we're like, yeah, we'll release it. Like it'll be a fun thing for anyone who's interested in that, just to hear it, because it's pretty funny how different it all is.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that. The blooper reel, so to speak.
Yeah.
Another question I wanted to ask you that's been kind of like heavy on my mind is that I feel like this is both the best time and the worst time to be a musician, because really for the same reason. For on one hand, it's so easy now to make music and put it up on the internet and get it out to people. Like you can do that on your own, no problem. But the downside to that is there's so much music now. Like there's so many bands with so many albums, and even with me trying to just narrow down kind of my favorites, it's really hard to just keep up. So the question I wanted to ask you was, why should people listen to your band out of that giant sea of what's out there?
Man, I don't even know how to answer that because um, I'm just surprised people listen to us in general. Um, but
You need like a sales pitch.
yeah, no, I've always been horrible at pitching my own music too. But like I don't know, it's just if you like really dark, heavy music with a lot of atmosphere, just blends a lot, with a lot of noise. It's a very harsh record, and I guess if you're just like into just things that are very like harsh or like
Yeah.
almost taboo in a way sometimes, like
No,
it
I
might be
like
good.
that word.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean,
Do you
I
feel
don't.
like there's a specific element that like helps you all stand out? Because I
Um,
feel like there is, but I'd be interested to hear from you what you think that is.
I I feel like the mixture of like noise and just atmosphere and everything that gets presented into it. I don't know. There's a lot of just, and I also think just like where we draw from our influences too is different from a lot of other bands, I guess. Because we're just really like we have that core style. That's very evident, like that heavier, like metalcore style, but it's just there's a lot of just other elements of like what we all just collectively listen to, and there's parts on the record that almost like the way that the guitar is played reminds me of like Slint sometimes, like Spiderland, and it interests me in like those ways where I feel like there's a big there's just a lot going on, and for me when I listen to music I'm very interested when there's just when everything kind of like every song will kind of have its own identity in a way, and I can kind of pinpoint where I'm at in the album just by hearing like something like on records that like I like or just anything. Like I don't know, we just didn't want everything to blend in and sound similar or yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Definitely that just different take on atmosphere. And in my head, I was even starting to be like, is it kind of like blackened hardcore? But then I was like, no, because I associate that with kind of more of like Hexus and
Mhm.
things like that. So it really does like
I've had
stand
a
out.
I've had a good time seeing like some of the for fans ofs for this because it's like some of them are like really cool, like the Jesus Lizard stuff, and someone said like inbred reminded them of Unsane, and
Hmm.
like just like stuff where I'm just like I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's cool that like triggers that. And then there's an article that went up yesterday that said we sounded like Limp Bizkit and Clutch and Orgy having a brainchild, and they
What?
went on to how we were like reviving new metal or something. I was
What?
like, what the fuck? But
Well,
I was like, that's so
that's a
funny.
different look at it.
Yeah, I was very just like, I was like, I don't get this. And then I was like, well, now I'm gonna just embrace this.
I guess that's your next
Just,
album right there. You're
yeah,
gonna,
just all gonna wear those backwards Yankees hat.
yeah,
Bring it
get Fred Durst to do a guest spot, and
back.
now
uh,
that would be interesting on this
oh God.
music.
Yeah.
I really had trouble with my for fans of section on this. Like I usually just kind of throw that up, and I usually do 3 bands, but I only did 2 this time because I really like couldn't nail it down. I definitely included Daughters, but then beyond that I was kind of like nothing else sort of fit. I did include Youth Forever, but I feel like that's a pretty loose comparison. It was more so just like some of the vocal inflections and some of the guitar work where when it gets a little bit more dissonant and noisy reminded me of that. But yeah, it was hard to compare this to anything else. I also threw in the middle of the review, I was like, there's some guitar parts that remind me of like Frontier or even Psyopus, but I wouldn't put those as like, if you like those bands, you should listen to this band
Yeah.
because they're so different. Like
Yeah.
as an overall band, it's really like moment to moment. You're kind of having to pick like, oh, this moment sounds like this, but then this moment sounds like this. So there's not a great like A to B comparison to make, which I think is a good thing. Like I think that is
Yeah.
something that makes you unique.
Yeah, that's really like that's been my favorite thing of the whole thing, is just like, I'm like, okay, at least that's just like not the same batch of everything, or
Yeah,
it's
the
just like, oh,
same
this band just
same
sounds
old.
like this. And I think that's all I ever want whenever I'm like coming out or like in a band or like doing something, is just like, I just want it to like stand out on its own in a way. And so I'm glad that like seems like it's being like received that way, like
Yeah.
positive or negative. As like as long as it's just kind of its own thing.
Yeah. I was also curious about your experience playing Index Fest, and I really wish I could have been there, but I did interview Mouth Breather before the show, and I thought it was a nice little bookend now to kind of interview you after the fact. So, thoughts on that experience?
No, it was great. I'd never met Christian in person before, but he's been like probably like, I feel like my biggest supporter, like of
He
just
really
like
is. He's just
every
such a
band.
good guy.
Yeah, he like I feel like every band I've been in for like the last like 5 years, he's just always shared and stuff, and I'm just like, you don't have to do that, but you're so kind. Like,
Yeah.
so it was really cool to like just like meet him and meet everyone else that like was involved with like Mathcore Index stuff. And just, I mean, that show was really fun. And it was just, we got like this really good vegan food that was like right on the corner. And it was just it was a good time. And like the Mouth Breather guys they're always fun to be around. I mean, you talk to Ryan's a character.
Yeah, they were definitely characters on the
Yeah.
podcast too. That was an interesting episode.
Yeah. So, um, but no, the whole experience was awesome. And like the day before too, like we played in Reno, and we were driving to get a hotel, and it's like we found a place at like, it was like 3 a.m. I don't even remember where. It was just like the just whatever, like the rural California basically. And we like pull up to this motel. It kind of looked a little seedy, but it was like, okay, like whatever. I mean, we just need somewhere to sleep. And I like walk in to like check in and do everything. And I had called maybe like 45 minutes to like an hour before or so, and no one was there. And I was like, okay. And I just felt like I was the start of like a horror movie. And just kind of literally thought that I was gonna like peek back and just see like a leg or something, and just stumble upon like a dead body or whatever. And we like
Sewn
wait.
into the mattress.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it was so strange. And like we waited for like 10 minutes, and we're like, okay, no one's coming, like we'll just keep driving and we'll find another hotel. And like we're pulling away, and there's just like this weird looking guy who's just like carrying something, just like walking towards the van. I was like, all right, let's just go. Like I don't know what's going on. And like I guess in like the Yelp reviews, it was just like, it's like a crack den or something. Like it was just
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah, we stayed here and we found like pipes and stuff like that, and like whatever. And it's like, that's not like, not judging or anything, but I was just like, okay, like I don't know like where we were like whatsoever. And so we ended up like driving overnight to San Francisco. And I just remember like being up that whole drive, and everyone else was asleep, and I was like, okay, I'm like wide awake. And I ended up pulling up. It was like 45 minutes outside of San Francisco, but it was like a spot where like Zodiac killed the two teenagers.
Oh wow.
So like I drove off there, and just kind of like try to take that in for a little bit, and that was cool. Or maybe not cool, but
No,
it,
interesting though.
yeah, it's
That's pretty
definitely
wild.
interesting. And it was just interesting too to like drive around like that drive as well, because it's like, okay, he definitely drove on the same road and then did everything. And yeah, I don't know, that was like pre Mathcore Index Fest, and then I was like super just tired beforehand, and the show was awesome.
By the way, the irony's not lost on me that a band called Meth thought that the crack den was not good enough for them.
Well, it wasn't that. It wasn't like.
No, I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Good enough. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm just, yeah. No, it's fun. But yeah, that was an interesting night. I was very tired.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah.
That's cool though. And yeah, Christian, he just puts his heart and soul into all that stuff, and you just want to see it be successful. And it sounds like the people who went out had a really great time, and they're already talking about next year. And
yeah, I've been trying to convince them to bring it to Chicago. I just keep like sending him messages like, come on, and like I'll help you like set it up. And
well, it seems like East Coast is a little bit easier from
I think it is. I mean, it seems like it seems like that's the idea. So,
yeah. Well, and speaking of Chicago, I grew up in the Chicago area. I went to college in various places downtown, and I always like asking bands from there what their favorite like underground metal bands are right now that you feel like deserve more attention from that area, metal or hardcore, that kind of stuff.
Well, I
heavy music.
Yeah, like it's not like metal or hardcore, but they're heavy. Like our friends in Loom, I always talk about them. We did like a short run with them, but they're very just like sludgy. Their live sound is very just takes everyone back. And they just did like a collaboration record with Resin, who's really good. They're like another like doom kind of psyche. I'm so bad at genres and stuff, but both those bands are really, really good. And it's like another band that's similar to that, or actually not similar, just another like kind of. It's not really heavy, but it's very it's weird. It's very like 31G-esque, I guess. But this band Nanzu, which I don't know if they're doing anything right now. I feel like they're always like in the middle of like switching members, but that band is just like a riot. I don't even know how to describe that music. But it reminds me of I get vibes of like kind of like The Locust and like Arab on Radar and just like that older, just very bizarre music that I think like is definitely worth checking out. Those are usually the bands I kind of draw to, I guess.
All right. Well, any other closing thoughts, things you want people to know about the album, things that you've got coming up in the near future? This is coming out on, hopefully I'll have it edited up and it'll actually go up on Monday.
Oh, right on. We have an East Coast run, so we're basically hitting up everywhere on the East Coast, and then we're doing some a few days with Jerome's Dream and our friends in Frail Body at the end of September, and then we might have something a little different early next year, maybe like mid next year. Not really an album, just kind of like just something.
Something.
Just something. I don't want to go too far into it. But,
okay.
We're
Mystery
definitely
project.
Yes, we're definitely working on something.
It's a new Nick Cage movie.
Yes. It's called Werewolf Smooch or something. I don't know.
We've come full circle.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time, and I know we had to go back and forth a bit to find it, but you stuck in there for me, and this has been a good one. Definitely, yeah. Yeah, stay in touch. I always want somebody to talk about morbid detective work and serial killers. Yeah, and Nick Cage, always. So perfect. We're on the same wavelength for that. So yeah, you know where to find me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm glad we did this.
Yeah.
And thank you for asking. So appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Always a pleasure, and always happy to have any of you guys back on in the future too. So Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Just feel free to hit me up whenever. So.
All right, man. And that'll do it for this episode of Trench Talk. Hope you enjoyed it as always. Thank you so much for listening. And once more, please do subscribe to the channel. Share the episode around with other people you think might be interested. That's the best way to really get us out there. Comment, like it, give us a rating, whatever platform you're on. We're on YouTube, iTunes, CastBox, and BitChute. And please consider going to the Patreon if you are a regular listener. You want to throw us some support. Just $1 a month makes a huge difference. And if you join at the $5 tier, you get early access to these episodes. Sometimes I throw up some special other videos early before anyone else gets to watch them or hear them. But yeah, thank you so much for just your continued support. And always happy to continue recording. Stick around, listen to all the other episodes. If you're on YouTube, watch the other videos we got on here. We got tons of content now, and I'm excited to continue making more. But Flight of Icarus, signing off. I will see you in the trenches.